the past injustices. So they organized the first one, and you can see from 1998 to today when we're launching the Indigenous Knowledge Systems, registration systems, it has taken a long time. And from 1998, we got policy in 2004. And we started implementing the policy in earnest in 2006. And I also want to confess that in 2004, in the year 2000, I met Carol Van Veek in the United States of America. I was leading a delegation, and she was part of that delegation. So in the process, having identified that potential, I recruited her for the Freedom Park. And the task was to help us with establishing a digital library for the liberation struggles. But I didn't stay too long, spent 2 years there, came to the DSI, and I noticed that that potential in her would deliver something to us. So from 2006, we moved with her here, and she has worked quietly and hard in directing and driving this process of reaching the IKS registration system. Meanwhile, we've had a lot of challenges trying to get the concept done. But having had the concept, we then partnered with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. So that relationship as well has been a long relationship. We picked on one principle, that we're going to build this system from grounds up. We're not going to buy a system from other countries, because Indigenous knowledge has its own metadata, has its own knowledge systems. So if we borrow another system and come and build it here, we will just be taking Indigenous knowledge into a jacket, and we'll be reproducing other knowledge systems. So we've worked with them. They had visited many places and came up with the metadata that is behind the knowledge registration system. So congratulations to them. They rose to the sustainable and durable. You need to build also long-term relationships and reliance on people that can deliver. So that's one part of the work. The other area where we have built a long relationship and basing it on principles that are important is the World Intellectual Property Organization. And when I joined the department was already going to WIPO. I joined on the 1st of April of 2006, and on the 26th of April, the director was so generous, the Director General was so generous that he allowed me to go to WIPO. From WIPO, we have taken the principles of a sui generis protection of Indigenous knowledge, a special type, because it's not like patents, it's not like copyright, it's not like trademarks. It has its own way of protecting that knowledge. And so, although WIPO has not arrived at the implementation of a sui generis, we at the department have built it into the legislation, the Indigenous Knowledge Act of 2009. The first Indigenous Knowledge Bill was also presented around 2004, 2005. But you can see it has taken long from that time to get it done to today. So what we have built has been based on a lot of principles that favor Indigenous knowledge communities as the beneficiaries of this system. Now, talking about the dignity of African people, what would that be if you don't have a history and the knowledge of the people captured? So this system that we're introducing today is a hub of Indigenous knowledge to gather this knowledge and for the production and use currently, but also as posterity for the future of our generations. So we're not doing something for today. This particular system we're building is for a legacy project for generations to come. So with this part of the introduction, I want to indicate that we have been reporting on this work to the portfolio committee, and today we just presented this work, and they were very keen. They're actually waiting on us now for the Director General to say we've switched it on, because they want to switch on and access it. So we can see the political significance of your work, that it is so crucial, it's so important. And as you who are working on the ground, collecting this information, you must know that you're contributing a lot of wealth that is not only to this nation, but it will be a global wealth that will help us to advance the African dignity, reclaim our place in the world, and also create our own identity as Africans through the use of our indigenous knowledge system. So I want to welcome you and extend my gratitude to you for having contributed to this process. I must also acknowledge that we're having the Chief Director from the Department of Rural Agriculture and Rural Development. And they've been partners with us working on indigenous foods. And they've been part of the interdepartmental committee for a long time. So I want also to acknowledge the partnership with government departments such as yours, and Department of Environmental Affairs, and Arts and Culture. We're really grateful that it is through your contributions that we have arrived at this stage. So this is a milestone for us in the implementation of the Act today. So I thank you very much, and I hope that you will see that each one of you have a role to play in advancing this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Jonas Sileti. We have heard a very important message from Prof. Sileti and the journey as to where we come from until today, and also where we want to go. Because as we used to say, colleagues, that the future of IKS is in the hands of the indigenous knowledge holders, the researchers, the scientists working with government, and also to make sure that along the way we don't forget the young ones, because the young ones are the ones actually who have the know-how and also the technical skills in terms of taking this work forward. Like as I said, colleagues, in our program we're supposed to have the Deputy Dean for Community Engagement from the Faculty of Natural and Agricultural Sciences, Prof. Midupi. Unfortunately, he's not here with us physically, and also online he's also not there. But that is not all going to deter us from doing our work. We will continue because we are here, and all the esteemed delegates are also here. Colleagues, I can also indicate that for your information, as the Northwest University, since as Professor Sileti has also given you the journey from 1998, we've been the first university in this country to spearhead projects around IKS, not only in teaching, but also in community engagement. And we're also working with CSIR for a number of agreements with them. And we also produced the first PhD in IKS, I think 10 years ago. And recently, our program was also a very, unacceptable program in terms of institutions of higher, because it brings transformation and decolonization. We started with a few number of students, but today I'm proud to say that in our first year this year we have about close to 167 students who managed to register for the Bachelor of Indigenous Knowledge Systems at the Northwest University through the support of the Department of Science and Innovation, through the bursaries they've been providing since 2013. And beyond that, also for our postgrad, even I'm the beneficiary of some of those support that came from the department. So you can see where we are at the Northwest. We are not just here by default. It's based on our track record and what we've been doing. We've got a number of projects with the Department of Science and Innovation, and we are very happy to be working with that as a local knowledge, but it has to be a global instrument that we can use to show people the civilization started in Africa. I will call now Dr. Aisha Chigwamba, the Acting Group Executive for Natural Resource and Development Infrastructure and Professional and Public Service Division, to come and give us a message of support. The stage is yours, Dr. Aisha. I don't have the sanitizer. We're supposed to be having someone assisting us to sanitize this microphone.
Good afternoon, everyone. To acknowledge our Director General from the Department of Science and Innovation, Prof. Medupe's representative, I believe is not here. Ambassadors from the documentation centers that are here today. Most importantly, the owners of the indigenous knowledge that we are here to celebrate the launch of the tools to access such knowledge. Without their custodianship and the role that they play generation after generation to pass on that knowledge, we wouldn't be here and be having nothing to celebrate. So to acknowledge the owners of the indigenous knowledge that we now use as assets. Now to also then acknowledge all the partners who are here from the government departments. I think Prof. Seleti did justice to the role of indigenous knowledge in who we are as a people. I think indigenous knowledge is an integral, there's a mind. Indigenous knowledge is integral to who we are as a people, and it is part of the fabric of our society. And in fact, it is part of the definition of who we are and why we come to be the kind of people that we are, proud African people. Without further ado, mine is just a very simple congratulatory message. Thank you for this stage, Dr. Huisima. I want to acknowledge the work that has been done by all the teams that are in the room and those that did not make it into the room. Us as the CSI have contributed in a small part along this journey of many years. Ours was to build tools, and I want to speak to 3 of the tools that we worked on. We worked on the National Indigenous Knowledge Management Office portal. This system provides a gateway to all Indigenous Knowledge Registration operations and serves as a one-stop shop for research and development communities, including the general public, to access government initiatives, policy documents, programs, and all other indigenous knowledge-related information and data. The next part that we worked on in partnership with all of you is the National Indigenous Knowledge Management System, the NIGMAS. This system represents an information and communication technology, ICT platform for the management of indigenous knowledge as governed by the Indigenous Knowledge Act of 2019. This platform consists of the provincial hubs, which are used to capture data from participating communities, as well as a centralized system which synchronizes data from all the hubs. And I don't want to steal any thunder from those that will demonstrate the system, so I will stop right there and say there was some training involved, but others will speak to that. Lastly, we contributed to the pharmacopoeia, which is a system in which is a prior art database, which holds information on the use, quality, efficacy, and safety of traditional African medicines in South Africa. It, of course, draws on published resources like books, journal articles, on theses, on plants, their botanical distribution, and uses for medicinal purposes. And of course, whatever information we could gather from the owners of the indigenous knowledge. Currently, we're working on the operationalization phase of the Indigenous Knowledge Communication System, supported in taking our lead from the DSI, acknowledging that vision took the lead in this, and acknowledging the partnership of everyone in the room our colleagues from Northwest, the people that have been working in the field, without whom we could not have done any of this. Once again, on behalf of the CSIR, we thank you and we congratulate all the partners on this very noble initiative.
Thank you very much, Doc, for those very profound messages. We are very happy to hear that also from CSIR. I also would like to welcome to the stage Mr. Shuni Pambo. I don't know how we are going to do it with Shuni because they advised me to not stay closer to the podium because of the echo that comes from the speakers. Maybe if you have your presentation online, you have got the technology because you are from the department, you can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director. I would like to acknowledge the Director General of the Department of Science and Innovation. I would like also to acknowledge our partners and all protocol officers. I'm also going to donate this sanitizer with the spirit of God. All right. My presentation today is going to be a very short one because I'm going to give a background of how we aim and wish to protect indigenous knowledge and how we got to have the three pillars that we are going to be talking about today and maybe launching one of them, namely the protection and management of indigenous knowledge. As Prof indicated in his opening remarks, born from the 2004 IKS policy, one of the imperatives of the IKS policy was the development of a legislation for the protection of indigenous knowledge. Now, taking into consideration different phases of what we wanted to achieve, the way the IKS Act is coined, it talks to all the principles that we wanted to involve in the protection of indigenous knowledge. However, we had to look at a number of issues that are now the focus of the IKS Act. Following a number of consultations locally in the region and internationally, we came up with the IK Bill, which was signed into law in August 2019. And currently we have an IK Act, which is called IK Act number 6 of 2019. I'm just going to present the focus of the Act. And I want to locate the registration system within the focus of the IK Act. Mine is going to be concentrated on this slide only. For the longest time, we know South Africa has been number 3 in one of the mega biodiverse countries in the world. And we lost the position to other countries. We are now number 6 as one of the mega biodiverse countries. We are number 10 in terms of the medicinal plants that are found in South Africa, and we are still number 3 in terms of the marine resources that are found within our shores. Now, when you look at the statistics of how wealthy South Africa and Africa is, and you balance that with the economic status of our communities, where actually the indigenous knowledge is, there is some kind of imbalance. We are rich, but we are poor. So we don't know how we got there. But from this slide, it is very clear that we lost most of our resource through biopiracy. So one of the most important elements of focus of the IK Act is to address the issues around biopiracy. And how then do we address that? The registration system is one of the most important elements in addressing biopiracy. And in plain language, biopiracy is the use of a resource without authorization. Now, the system that we are launching today provides a situation where the access to community and the access to a resource will be managed through the registration system. The second bit that we want to focus on in the IKS Act is misappropriation, a very close relative to biopiracy, because it also talks to unauthorized use of knowledge, maybe by firstly taking it away from its original location without the permission of those who have been interacting with it. And as Prof has mentioned, we are a very strong force at WIPO, and our position is that there must be a mandatory disclosure on the use of knowledge and knowledge associated with the resource. But within the space of misappropriation, there are instances, for instance, where there has been benefit sharing agreements concluded by third parties and the communities. But when you look at the nature of the benefit sharing agreement, it is not appropriate. So that constitutes misappropriation. So one of the focuses then of the Act and how the Act wants to deal with this is to make review of the current benefit sharing agreements that are in place and see how we make sure that there is equitable sharing of benefits across the board. This is also considering the user and also the owners of knowledge. The third element here is the promotion of registration of indigenous knowledge. And we know for a fact that for the longest time, our indigenous knowledge or our knowledge has been transferred from one generation to the other by word of mouth. And there has nothing documented to that effect. Now, the danger in not having anything written down is that there is no one who will claim rightful ownership to it. Hence, the biopiracy. And we are saying there is no law that is retroactive. So whatever mischief that has happened can never be addressed through this law once it comes to effect. But any activity that goes beyond after the Act has been enforced then becomes the subject of the Act. So through the registration system, we are trying to avoid a situation where communities lose their knowledge because it is not clear where the knowledge comes from. And we've been very consistent in saying indigenous knowledge by its nature is communally owned. And therefore, we need to identify the communities who have claims on a particular knowledge and who have claims to knowledge associated with resource. And the IKS Act also gives provision for multiple ownership. This multiple ownership emanates out of the fact that the resources don't have knowledge of boundaries. The boundaries that we have are political boundaries. So there is knowledge, for instance, that is found in KZN, and the same knowledge or maybe associated resource is found in other parts of the province. And worse still, the knowledge can be found outside of the borders of South Africa. And therefore, we need to make sure that this knowledge is registered so that if a third party wants to access that knowledge and utilize that knowledge for a different number of reasons, it could be for research, it could be for bioprospecting and product development. Once it reaches a stage where there are benefits that accrue, the communities must be able to benefit as well. And in that regard, we are changing now the narrative where the third party would be the one who determines what happens. So now indigenous knowledge is going to be protected in its own terms. In other words, this Act is giving the communities an extra layer of right that gives them an opportunity to either grant or deny access to their knowledge. And we can only be able to manage that if the knowledge is registered. And I also want to emphasize the fact that this registration that we are talking about is voluntary. We are not going to force any communities to register their knowledge, but the downside of not having your knowledge registered is that should there be misappropriation, biopiracy on your knowledge, there is no recourse on the side, from the side of this law, because your knowledge was not registered. But if there is a conflict that arises out of the third party misappropriating or exploiting the knowledge without the consent of the communities, then penalties and offenses from this IKS Act will kick in. Another important element is the recognition of prior learning. We do appreciate the fact that not all of us were subjected to the formal conventional education system. But that does not mean that our communities don't know what they know. As a matter of fact, some, if not all, our professors and our doctors, they have written theses and they have written books, and some of the knowledge that they have acquired come from the community. But there is no acknowledgement of the source. Now, that is how much knowledge there is in the communities. Now, when we come up with the recognition of prior learning, we are actually saying the only thing that is standing between a vet, the organic vet, and the conventional vet is the certificate. The only thing that is standing on the way between the traditional birth attendant and maybe a gynecologist is a piece of paper called the certificate. The knowledge, if not better, still lies with the communities. So we are saying we need to recognize the communities through a certification process. I wouldn't stress more the importance of benefit sharing. If we were to forget anything and everything that I said in this presentation, and remember the fact that the intention of the IKS Act is to make sure that the benefits accruing out of the use of indigenous knowledge should be shared with the communities on an equal footing. To such an extent that, for instance, we are saying, let us encourage technology transfer, where the Western meets the indigenous, so that the knowledge that our communities know can be shared with the West, and the West can share the knowledge that they have with our community. The Act also facilitates research and development. The products that we have already, they are the proof that we really want to facilitate research and development. When we started with the Act, more especially when it was still a bill, it was met with so much apprehension, because the impression, more especially from the industry and some of the scientists, was that now we don't want them to access the resource, and therefore they cannot do their research. And the opposite is true. What we want now is new product development. What we want is to make sure that we exploit in a positive way the knowledge that the communities have and the resources that the communities have. So by so doing, we are facilitating research, and this is where the relevance of the registration system comes in, because they are going to be able now to have the information in the registration system. They will be able to know where the communities are. They will be able to know the claims associated with the knowledge. And that makes everybody happy. That makes things easier for the researchers as well. We are also talking to the patent offices. When they do their certain examination, they are able to maybe consult with the pharmacopoeia to identify the prior act. And we are happy to say now the prior act is going to be one of the requirements on the granting of patents. And therefore we want to emphasize the importance of the registration system. It creates also the mechanisms for dispute resolution. And we are saying this because once you talk benefit sharing, there's going to be communities or individuals who claim to be more of owners than others. It can happen within the communities, it can happen intra-community, it can also happen outside the borders of South Africa. And therefore, when disputes arise, we have put together mechanisms where these disputes will be resolved. But all of this don't happen in a vacuum. This is why, for instance, we are going to establish an office which is called a Special Service Delivery Unit, which will be a National Indigenous Knowledge Systems Office. The one important function of this office would be to implement the Act in its entirety. So the registration system itself will be located within the office. The curator will be in the office, and the curator is that office that will be responsible for receiving applications for registration. So once the communities have appointed trustees who will be the interface between the communities and the office, then they agree that they want to register their knowledge, not forgetting that this is communal knowledge. The trustee then will apply to the curator, and the curator will check the eligibility criteria of the knowledge that is being applied for registration. And if the knowledge fits the criteria, which is 1, it must be passed from generation to generation, 2, it must be associated with the social and cultural identity of the community, and 3, it must be used, maintained, developed, and maintained. So once the knowledge meets that criteria, then the knowledge will be put in the register. So that will be the function of the office, among other things. So I just thought we need to put the registration system in a context that it is one of the implementing arms of the IKS Act. So that is my presentation in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, we have here colleagues from the presentation that there will be a national office that is going to be set up, and I believe there's going to be also provincial offices because most of the work also is also at the provinces. And also we have here that there's a lot of work that has been done, and also with the department we've been doing this public awareness on the Act almost in all the provinces in the country, and also on the biocultural protocols. And we are still continuing to work with them also on the registrations issues. So Ms. Carroll is going to be the one taking forward the program going forward, colleagues. I'm very happy to have been given this opportunity. And before I leave, because the DG and the Chief Director are here and other colleagues, I can also inform that the Northwest University will also be hosting the International Conference on Indigenous Astronomy in July. Because as colleagues have also said, our knowledge comes from the community. So it's one way of promoting the knowledge of the communities at an international level. And we're also planning a summit on donkeys. Because a lot of people don't know that donkeys have a potential as a socio-economic resource to develop our communities. We'll extend the invitation to the DG's office and the Chief Director. I have a student who's doing a master's research on donkeys. Because from donkeys we can have healthy milk, we can produce biltongs, we can do a lot of things about donkeys. So donkey is not an animal when you see you must throw with stones, or burn with petrol and all those kind of things. And we used to grow, we think that donkeys were associated with witchcraft. For us, it's a resource for socio-economic development of our local communities. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Dr. Quincy. They say donkeys have a lot of patience, and it has taken us generations to get to this stage. I'm not going to talk much. We are going to show you just one short video clip of one community that have contributed to the system, and we'd like to profile the Northern Cape community. After that, we will then demonstrate the IKS registration system through video mode as well. Please sit back and relax and enjoy the Northern Cape. Thank you.
because for so many centuries, our knowledge was taken, and people use our knowledge, and we never have the proof to say that this is our knowledge, because people always will say that, but nothing has been written up. And we, from one generation to the next, we only transferred our knowledge. But through this project, everybody will write up the knowledge of our communities. So the Lamas, the Moragas, the Wikwas, and the San communities of the Northern Cape, they try in writing up their knowledge through the IKS project or through the IKS. For us, documenting our knowledge was very important. For the first time, people now know that we do have traditional knowledge and knowledge associated with our culture, our medicinal knowledge, and we can now proudly say that when somebody asks us, do you guys have written information? Then we can say yes. Through the IKS C project in the local area, we wrote up our traditional knowledge and we now have proof of what we are saying.
Die naam is van een groot mens. En ik is vandaag een van die troosters dat daar kan wees. Om weer hier van 2018 te gaan staan. En jullie boodschap aan die wereld is hier. Dat is een wonderlijk voorrecht. Dat ons naar ons eigen kentekens wat het gemaakt heeft hier. Om boodschap uit te dragen. Wat die Boesma's hier doen. En waarmee jullie hier bezig zijn. Dat is blij dat er vastgemaakt wordt. De technologie op wijze dat het bescherming zal blijven voor ons nageslacht, achterste nageslacht. Jammer voor ons kinderen, wat niet de voorrecht heeft om de kans nog hier te geven. En die omstandigheden van de levenswijze, om samen hier te gaan leren. En ook, alle goed op die tafel hier te kunnen zetten. Wat kan zeggen, met juffrouw die en met juffrouw meneer die, dit is het doen. Maar voor ons is het een wonderlijk voorrecht wat hier gebeurt. Dat ons wetenschappelijk begint inschakelen. Om ook erkenning te krijgen voor de eerste keer. Kan ons dit noemen een wereldgeschiedenis. Komt ons goed op als mensen. Ons eigen goed voor onszelf van. Wat ons zegt. Saatje. Boesma, na Sa, en als Boesma, naar Twai Sa. Dat is waar het lief is. Zodat ons het, ons medicijnen, ons kunstwerk, dat is eigen aan ons. Dat is ons erfenis. Ons wil het bemin. Ons wil het groei. Ons wil richting aanwijs. Ons wil niet doodbeleid wees. Dat is die ene manier van een Boesma. Hoe nederig en terug ook mag wees, maar dat is die pad. Daarom kan ik zeggen, ons hart is blij. Ons is verheugd voor wat ons groepspan aan recht krijgt om die film te maken. Wat die waarheid kan vertellen. Ons zit op een pijn en hartzeer. Maar jullie als ons een baie goede tree naar voren om te wijzen daar is lucht wat schijnt.
So, DG and esteemed colleagues, that just shows how this project, this initiative, documents the indigenous knowledge in the vernacular language. It's a way of preserving that knowledge. So we're going to move now to the CSR system, the Indigenous Knowledge Registration System, that will show you through video mode how this initiative or the system sets out to protect indigenous knowledge.
South African Africans love to talk about and enjoy the natural beauty our country has to offer. What we often take for granted is how much wisdom our rural communities have collected over many centuries from these beautiful places where they live. From generation to generation, this indigenous wisdom has been passed down orally. While this served a special purpose for family cohesion, the oral nature of our country's indigenous wisdom meant that its future was not assured in the long term. The necessity to document and protect this wisdom became evident. To add to this, other threats such as misappropriation and misuse of indigenous knowledge were a growing reality. This prompted the South African government to note the significance of indigenous knowledge, which was further being lost through processes like urbanization and new technology adoption. To protect this valuable resource, the Department of Science and Innovation, in collaboration with the CSIR Software Architecture and Solutions Research Group, developed and implemented the IK registration system to record our IK. To date, the IK registration system has been deployed in various communities, connected to 10 IK documentation centers in all 9 provinces. But this is only one of its milestones. More recently, the status of and the imperative to protect IK, as well as the rights of communities that steward our IK, have been embedded into our legislation.
In 2019, the President of the country signed into law the IKS bill, which is now called the IK Act number 6 of 2019.
The significance of the Protection, Promotion, Development and Management Indigenous Knowledge Act is that it has given the country a mandate on which to explore the possibilities of indigenous knowledge in this country. And for now, we have an indigenous knowledge system, registration system, which is an IT system on which we record, and it's an important element because we need to keep it in such a way that it is protected against people who can hack it, so that we can keep it in such a way that we can retrieve it, and we can keep it in such a way that other people from other parts of the world could also have access to it.
The DSI trains regional representatives, and these representatives find the community members with the IK. They then record and document this knowledge in the respective local languages using video technology and the necessary tools at the IKS documentation centers. This treasure trove of oral knowledge is then uploaded on the secure system. Apart from training, all IK documentation center coordinators and IK recorders enter into non-disclosure agreements before they embark on capturing IK in communities.
We identify a community where we want to record them. So we go to the community and then go to the tribal council. We request permission to document their community. So as they agree, then they call a community meeting. That's where we do an awareness, we explain the processes, how they work, and then the traditional council, they give us permission through signing the legal framework forms, and then after that they introduce us to the communities. I will first sign the prior informed consent with each and every IK holder, where they give us permission to document their knowledge for protection. Then after we have signed the prior informed consent form, we sign the 90-disclosure form, where we will explain to them that as they're giving us this knowledge, we are not going to use it for our benefit, or we are not going to disclose it to anyone else. And then the final step that we do in the community, we go to the recording part, where they demonstrate to us how they prepare, if it's for a flu, how they prepare this medicine step by step.
The system now allows for communities to register the knowledge. Indigenous knowledge has been passed from generation to generation through the word of mouth. And as such, it has been subject of exploitation. And you know what happens when nobody has ownership of something, or there is nothing documented to say this belongs to you? It becomes a free for all. So
what this registration system seeks to do is to defend the knowledge of the community. This is what we call defensive protection. And we have positive protection, which means if then the third party wants to use this knowledge, the communities have a right to either grant or deny access to the knowledge.
The IK registration system is the landing page of the NIK, MES, and pharmacopoeia systems through the National IK Systems Office portal. It provides a gateway to all IK registration operations and serves as a one-stop shop for R&D communities, including the general public, to access government initiatives, policy documents, programs, and all other IK-related information and data. When we go to the National IK Management System homepage, we see that this is where the processes and structures developed through the National IK Registration System are supported. Under Fast Facts, we see that the system covers 10 provincial IK system documentation centers. The system currently has over 2,000 IK holders with over 10,000 claims. Within these claims, the system has quality assured over 3,000 IK inputs ready for scientific processing. Looking at access levels, 2 levels exist. Open access that contains community promotional information, as well as recorded IK that is already in the public domain, and confidential access that requires authorization to access the detail on a specific entry. The user can look for a community in the system and access the relevant information depending on the access levels. Besides other benefits, the value of the IK registration system in the area of IK-based innovation, for example, will support the value chain of an Ubuntu-based innovation process, which starts with the knowledge holders and communities profiled in a digital format on the system. Users are able to access community promotional information. For example, the information for the Komani Sand community gives the GPS location as well as tourism information. The Pharmacopoeia System database contains information on the use, quality, efficiency, and safety of traditional medicines in South Africa. It draws on published resources on plants, the botanical distribution, and uses for medicinal purposes. Researchers, community members, traditional healers, and global users can benefit from the system's information, cross-referencing, and research outputs. The system displays the listing of plants, and from there the user can make their selection. Plant details displayed include the scientific classification, common names across most South African languages, and the geographical distribution. Dr. Dlamini works closely with communities in the IK-based nutraceutical platform and assists them to develop products that derive from the IK. A beautiful success story is the Setsong tea product.
Well, in the Setsong tea project, the Setsong tea crafters approached us with a product already made. So what we needed to do was then to scientifically validate for safety and also introduce some quality and standard operating procedures. So basically we help them through the process so that their product can be taken up in the market. You know, when you have indigenous knowledge, obviously it doesn't come from one individual, but it can come from a community or it can come from an area. The IK registration system will allow us then to be able to, to be easier to do benefit sharing agreements, for example, in terms of where did this knowledge come from? Because someone can walk in and get your knowledge and walk away and pretend it's there. But if it's registered somewhere, you can always trace and see that, oh, this knowledge came from vendor or this one came from hospital. So it makes it actually easy.
Mayor Pasha has been working with the DSI and the CSIR to develop and protect her community's IK on Setsong tea.
We're then introduced to registration of the indigenous knowledge, which was now making us feel a little bit better now that we're on a certain journey of registering so that we safeguard and protect this knowledge. And when we were going out to conferences, we were already seeing people getting very curious in our product, and they wanted this and this science and whatever and whatever. And it protected us because we didn't know much deep about science. I'm excited. I went to a vendor into the facility there for registration. I found a guy called Robert. He was very warm to us. He orientated us, he gave us an orientation. We are really looking forward to see that section coming into our doorsteps, because we are seeing something big with registration of knowledge. We see we're going to develop the museum for tea. We're going to dig in more. There's a lot of knowledge that is lying there, especially with the older generation. We are very worried that if we don't grab this opportunity of exposing or developing this knowledge, indigenous knowledge, whilst this older generation are still there, we might lose the value of fighting poverty, of fighting unemployment, of fighting illnesses. We are very rich in South Africa. We are high in biodiversity, but we are claiming poverty. So we need an incubation, a project that's going to redirect the minds of the people. We are here to say to the scientists, let's partner, let's close up the gap. Let's find a common denominator. So I'm glad that God gave me that opportunity to be a facilitator between the indigenous knowledge holders and the scientists. So we are looking forward at really registering this in our vicinity in Skukune, register it with the IKS project and science so that we can showcase with the future generations.
Between the IK gems held by the community and the exceptional digital repository that is the National IK Registration System lies many years of effort and unwavering commitment. Every hour worth its value. The system's potential multiple uses by a variety of stakeholders hold great promise for the national economy. The system is also critical for preventing biopiracy or granting patents in error. It ensures legal certainty because of its legal benefit-sharing framework and ensures that minimum standards in information and material transfer agreements in respect of IK research are available. Finally, the results of the reported IK will help communities to secure potential benefits and interests derived from commercialization and social good. These may include both social cohesion and economic benefits. However, the ultimate aim of the IK registration system is to protect our IK and the rights of knowledge holders.
Thank you, DG. I must say, we are in the month of March. We started 14 and 15 March 2007. We had the first knowledge management Indaba, where the CSR and the various universities and other science councils to look at how would the system come into being. And I must really say it's been a long time. And on behalf of the CSR DSI, we'd like to hand over the system to you, DG, to launch. Thank you. I'm sure you would know what to say, DG.
All right, thank you very much. I had a speech that was well prepared.
having listened to a number of speakers that have spoken, I'm not so sure if some of the issues that are on my speech have not been covered by the speakers that have spoken before me. So I'm going to change slightly, but try and stick to 10 minutes. So I'm firstly grateful to the Department of Agriculture, yes, Land Reform and Rural Development, today represented by Dr. Mahim. Please express our sincere thanks to the DG, a friend of mine. We still have some work that we're doing with him on the vaccine side of things, so we're grateful for your presence here today. Rachel, please thank the CEO, the CSR, for the ongoing partnership with yourself. I know that we were supposed to also have the Deputy Vice Chancellor from Northwest, so please express our sincere gratitude to Sonia and of course Teb Medupi for the ongoing and long partnership that we've had with the university. So we've heard that you're hosting a conference soon. Okay, we will come and make sure that it's properly supported. We also were supposed to be joined by the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries. If they are not here, I'm very much aware of the support we receive from the DG Nomfundo Shabalala and the entire team, and we are extremely grateful for that. We were also supposed to, and you've seen South African Biodiversity Institute, the CEO, may still be represented by somebody today. We are always totally indebted to them in the working relationship. Dr. Wakaba, government officials, our communities and their leaders, academia, civil society, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. As I say, the first message that I was going to talk about was how delighted I am to be here. And the reason why I'm delighted is because I'm supported in the department by an extremely competent team. So maybe before I start saying a few words, if they could stand, I saw Shumi, I saw Carol, Professor Seleti. I know that Julian from Comms is here. Anyone else? If you can stand so everyone can see you. Oh, you're here as well. Okay. And I'll tell you why I think it's a competent team. Professor Seleti, this is the point that I was going to make, gave you the history of this initiative and where it started. He told you about the white paper of 1996, the National Research and Development Strategy of 2002, where the science missions in this area of IKS and biodiversity was scripted as a priority for ourselves. He talked about the 2019 white paper and the document which we are finalizing, which we call a decadal plan for Indigenous Knowledge System. Now, you cannot be involved in a journey that starts from 1996 up to 2020 if you're not committed, number one, and if you don't believe in what you're doing. So this team is an extremely important team because they've stayed the course and they've produced, as we have seen, what I think is an excellent piece of work. I was extremely proud this morning when I had an opportunity to sit with the team as they present to the portfolio committee, and how excited the portfolio committee on higher education, science and innovation were when they heard about the progress that we have made on all aspects of the Indigenous Knowledge System. So again, a great round of applause to this team. Now, of course, it is also important to recognize that even though you've gone in this journey and you have an excellent team, you also need to appreciate the fact that if they cannot motivate to myself and the minister the importance of this work, it tends to peter out and disappear. So I have also been convinced that this work is important. And I'm going to give you my personal attribute, and I apologize, Prof, this will not have been in your speech. I was traveling in Europe and I found myself in Paris and I was sick. So I went to a pharmacy in Paris because my nose was blocked and I couldn't sleep properly. And if you have flown on the aeroplane and you're sick and you've got a blocked nose, you know that's the last thing you want, especially when it goes down, because your ears suck the pressure and you just cannot handle it. So I then got into the counter and asked for something to treat me. And for the first time in my life, I was surprised because I was asked, do you want the Western medicine or do you want a natural product? So I'm an inquisitive person. So I asked them, what do you mean by a natural product? So they explained this. This is extracted from the herbs. And deep down I was laughing because I say, oh, they don't call it an IKS. They call it a natural product. Yeah, so that was my own personal experience of the work that you do, but also touches on what Shumi has said, that, you know, there's been a lot of biopiracy. That product did not indicate anything from where I suspected these natural products are coming from. Obviously not in France. So they must have come from somewhere. The second experience is that I grew up under my grandmother, never negotiated with us on things. And you are very educated and sophisticated parents, and I see most of you negotiate with your kids. And on another day we can talk about what the importance of that. But something that I've observed is that our grandmothers never negotiated with us. So when we were sick, and in the place where I grew up, and when we had sores, she would just take alu and just treat us, and the problem we had was gone. So I'm just giving you a testimony of the importance of the work that you do, and in relation to what Prof said, that whilst I think we are in the first phase of the value chain of making sure that we register the knowledge, we also want to get involved in the product, and let's believe in it. If we don't, no one else will. And it so happens that yesterday night, I don't know how many of you were watching ENCA around 20 past 9, 25 past 9. There was a gentleman called Professor Gilbert Matsabisa from the University of the Free State. He was being interviewed about a product called Pila, which is work that they are doing to do clinical trials from Indigenous Knowledge System to treat COVID-19. I was interviewed yesterday, by the way. I don't know why, it just so happened that this is the case. And this is something that we want to leave you with as something we are committed, and we'll make sure it happens. We'll continue to support this work, not only from the registration perspective, but from the product development. So I was very excited to see the Ms. Patla on the Setsong tea, very, very exciting work. The Pila and the exciting work that is being done. I've seen that in the Bio-Africa Convention, which gets held in Durban every year, there's actually a stream of work on the Indigenous Knowledge System. So hopefully we'll fight for that again with my soldiers to make sure that that continues to be the work that we do. And then my fourth message is that I am really indebted to all of the partners that have worked with us on what we're launching today. The IKS documentation centers, hosted by Free State, Venda, KwaZulu-Natal, University of Zululand, CPUT, Walter Sisulu, the South African CERN Institute, the Gauteng Provincial Department of Sports, Arts, Culture, and Recreation, and the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency. Without that partnership, we wouldn't be able to be where we are, and we hope that that partnership will continue. And also, of course, the communities that have continued to respond to what we are trying to do. I am wanting to single out the university, Northwest University, that has provided you with in-depth capacity building on indigenous knowledge, its documentation and management, and research methodology over the past 3 years. So the recommendation that I'd like to give is to make sure that you apply what you have learned in the work that you do. Your solid commitment to indigenous knowledge documentation and registration process, as I've said, remains essential to ensuring that the captured knowledge is of high quality and can be leveraged towards socio-economic growth and development, as I've indicated. Now, I'd also, as I've said, like to indicate my indebtedness and the department's indebtedness to the communities that have volunteered and agreed to make this knowledge available. Your indigenous knowledge has been taken from you for too long, misused, and without any potential benefits accruing to you. As Shumi indicated, this is a journey that we would like to walk with you. We've been told that a special services delivery unit will be set up in the department to try and make sure that we minimize this and, if we can, eliminate it completely. Now, as you know, once you have registered your indigenous knowledge, you will enjoy exclusive rights to any benefits that may accrue from the commercial use. You'll be acknowledged and limit any unauthorized use of your indigenous knowledge. So maybe in concluding, as I get close to that, in future, as you know, the Indigenous Knowledge Registration System is envisioned to be a one-stop shop technology platform geared to enable seamless processes to obtain appropriate documentation, such as prior informed consent, benefit sharing, community resolutions, aspect of intellectual property, and licensing agreements, all under one roof. So CSR, we hope you are aware that this is the start, and we need to get to that one-stop shop. So once implemented, the technology platform aims to streamline regulatory processes across all statutes applicable to indigenous knowledge. So that's extremely important. The National Management Biodiversity Act, Intellectual Property Laws Amendment Act, to mention just a few of some of those that would need to be aligned. So in conclusion, today is indeed a historic day for our communities and for our country. A flagship of the IKS Act is the completion of the Indigenous Knowledge Registration System, which, as you have heard, houses ecosystems such as secure digital repository system for protecting, promoting, developing, and managing indigenous knowledge, for research, innovation, and business development, and the publication, as you've heard, of a pharmacopoeia of traditional African medicines and food recipes. The pharmacopoeia and the Indigenous Knowledge Registration Systems open access information are among the features that will be available for public use. Again, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to the Northwest University for hosting the IKS Registration System event. And please send our regards to the DVC and for the capacity building that you have conducted over the last 3 days, as well as the host institutions of these centers and their officials for facilitating documentation of indigenous knowledge in the communities. To the host institutions of the IKS documentation centers, we would like to thank you and express our sincere thanks for your continued support and collaboration in the Indigenous Knowledge Systems mission. The South African National Biodiversity Institute, SANBI, we value the collaboration in working with the department towards ensuring that the scientific names of the plant resources would be authenticated in the future. And a special thank you to the communities who have participated and to those who will participate in the future to document and register their indigenous knowledge. And as I've said, the CSIR, who have been our technology partner in achieving this IK registration system. I do want to end by saying, I want to put a challenge to you, Prof, the team and everyone in the room. We have seen a huge spike in the number of health-related challenges in society as a result of processed foods. So the challenge that I would like to ask you, and perhaps to do research for me, is what happened if we didn't eat that food and we ate the natural foods that you say are part of what we're doing? When did the transition happen? I don't have an answer, but I hope you will provide an answer for me. And as I retire next year, you will call on me and say, this is the answer, Director General. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG. I think we accept your challenge, DG, definitely. I'd like to call on Dr. Saleti to give us a vote of thanks, but I must stress it's not the end of the program, so he will just give the vote of thanks, and then we will do some community videos for you and other presentations as well. So it's a celebration today. And over to you, Dr. Saleti. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think that the round of applause for the Director General wasn't sufficient. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll tell you the reason why I wanted you to give him that round of applause. He has actually done my vote of thanks. He has gone through and thanked everyone. So I'm really grateful, and probably I should not go through that, but I should maybe pick up a few unique contributors to this project. I want to begin with the Director General himself. Throughout his appointment as the Director General, he has been at the forefront of supporting indigenous knowledge systems. And one day, I remember in one of the EXCO meetings saying, DG, these are legacy projects. They will outlive us. We will go, but they will remain, and people will remember that we contributed to this. And I think that you have been a great champion, and we want to acknowledge that. I want also to give credence that we've had many ministers coming through, and they've also been very supportive, from Minister Mangena, Minister Pando, and including the current minister. We are very good champions, and I think that with this milestone, we need to acknowledge their support. Only yesterday, I got a message from our communications that the Deputy Minister would like to champion 2 of the causes on indigenous knowledge. One of them is the rites of passage for young men and young women, you know, so that that could be championed. And the second one is to say that he wants to be a champion of the mainstreaming of indigenous knowledge into that. So we will assist with some information to him so that he could then advance this cause. So you can see the whole leadership, including the executive management, of the DSI. They've all been supportive of these activities. Just the other day, they supported the establishment of an IKS-based Bio-Innovation Institute in the future. So this is really a great work under the leadership of our DG, Dr. Mchwaha. So our hearts off to you. And we will be remembered. This is a legacy project for your work. But I also thought that one of the unique part that I need to do is to also identify the key contributors in terms of the technical work. That was the policy work from the DG, and probably my colleagues, KD, Tom, Shumi, Wiseman, who are here, and Shupeka, Shabalala, and Mamone, and Dike Lady, who has been part of the organizing of this. I want also to acknowledge their contribution from the department point of view. Well done, and keep it up. I want to move on to a unique group of people at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Beginning with the top, the DG has already acknowledged Dr. Dlamini, but Dr. Rachel Chikwamba has been part of this work and this journey with the team. And we've been recently joined also by Dr. Wakaba as part of this leadership in driving the IKS. We have tried many areas and many things with the teams. There are also those that are in the biological side, such as Dr. Dlamini, who was picked, and we want to acknowledge the continued work. But for the special team, I want to probably begin with the technical work with Louis, Melanie. Can you please stand up? Louis, Melanie, and Lindelani, and Matladze, and Muzi, and Manonkosi, and Jonathan. Then Gugu has been bothering me about money all the time, wanting to fund this group. Then Thomas and Matthew Chetty is not here, but they've been all part of this work. So I think that they deserve a huge round of applause for the technical work. They are the reason why we will be accessing the NICMAS and the portals from the comforts of our home. And they still have further work. They still have to translate this in isiZulu and all that as part, so that ordinary people can access it. So thank you very much. The DJ has acknowledged the Northwest team in terms of Professor Swanepoel and Professor Medupe at the top. But I think that this gentleman who came here, who was very young when he joined IKS, can you please stand up? And the team from Northwest, Kotaso, and who else has come from there? Yes, wonderful. So, and the students, do we have? Thank you very much from the team from Northwest. Well done. You are our ambassadors. I remember the idea of the ambassadors. It came when we were in Muruleng. And at a global conference, we had people coming from everywhere. So they decided that for public engagement and advocacy, we must have young ambassadors who must go to communities and champion IKS. We dropped the ball, but Northwest has picked it up. So we want to continue to thank them, and we'll run with that. Thank you very much. Then I think that we should make our representative from rural development to stand up so that we can acknowledge the contribution. We thank you very much for the role that you have played. it's not just the department. We've been working with her from probably the last time I met her could be 6-7 years ago in terms of our partnership in the work around indigenous foods and how we advance this work. So DG, your question and your challenge, I'll pass it on to her. As well, we'll get the resources for answering the question. We thank you very much. Just probably as a matter of fact, let's get to the IKS DCs. Let me begin with Limpopo. Can you please all stand up? These are the team that are responsible for the work. And can I get to Mpumalanga? Where is Mpumalanga? There we are. Thank you very much and well done. And then we move on to KwaZulu-Natal. We will come to Gauteng. I'm wondering whether I have people from Muruleng, Northwest. They are not here. Northern Cape. Gee, they even have uniforms. Huh? That's wonderful. And thank you for that video that you showed for us. We were really grateful for the work that you do. It's not an easy work. You have a huge province. And so thank you very much. Western Cape. Yes, I remember Western Cape. Oh, wonderful. Carol, I'm not sure whether we have got our Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape are virtual, so they are part of it. Just give them a round of applause. Free State. I almost left out Free State. We have an ambassador from Free State. He used to work in the office as an intern. Now he's a coordinator for the province. Thank you very much. These are the foot soldiers that go through a lot of challenges to get to the communities. It's not an easy task. Some of them have to get into a public transport to go to the communities. And some of the traditional leaders may also obstruct in terms of the work in which they are involved. So we thank you for your endurance and for your persistence. And a lot of them, we've had them for a long time. We just hope that we'll migrate this into a permanent structure where your security of work will be protected as well. And then to the communities that are out there, maybe beginning with the traditional leadership, if there are any that are listening, their support has been fundamental. They lead us to the knowledge holders so that it can be legitimate, so that it can also give them protection, that the leaders are behind them. So we want to thank you there, to thank them, and the communities, the knowledge holders were not here, but I think that some of them are listening and want to thank them. We also have members of the PTT, the Pilot Task Team, that guides some of the work on the recognition of prior learning. They are on the line, so we want also to acknowledge their work that they contribute to this. For each one of you and the houses of the media, in the last 3 months, we have enjoyed so much publicity on IKS in the activities that we've done. So we want to thank you for the partnership. Without you, we will not manage to convince the country that they need to invest in IKS. So I want to really thank all of you for the partnership. This is not for the DSI. I remember one day, as we were championing this, and we were looking at the different elements of the IKS. So the DG advised me that as you invest in this, remember that one day they will not be under your control. They will move on to other government departments and other structures to support them. So what we do is to incubate this work in the department, and the ownership is with the society and the communities. So with that, I want to thank everyone that is here for a wonderful ceremony, but stay around and see what the communities are able to do. I think it would be nice to see the faces of Robert on the video and the like. So thank you very much. And I think that with these few remarks, DG, we could release you. We thank you very much. And a round of applause to each one of yourselves. Just thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saleti, for that. As Dr. Saleti has mentioned is, please don't go away yet. I hope you have, when the CSIR played the video, you've noted the URL, the address of the system, so that you can go and browse it, look at it. If there's things that you don't like about it, there's an email that you can email us, and we will correct it. As I said, the system is a living system. It's been developed in a living lab system. So information will be added as and when we receive those. When you hit the system, you won't have access to the confidential information because we're waiting for the IK regulations and the IK curator's office to be established. So just note that. So it's just for browsing and to tell us, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that. So after the proceedings, we will flight the name of the website. It's the Nixo portal through which you can access the other systems. Now note that the pharmacopoeia system, you will have to subscribe to get access to that information. And the subscription at the moment is free. So please do register. The system will be able to guide you through, and we'll be able to add you as a user of the system. So I thank you. So I'll give over to the technical team to play us the videos of Free State and KZN. That will then be followed by the presentation by Professor Luke Chimuka. Yeah, thanks, team.
I'm from Bethlehem, and I work with the Department of Science and Technology under UOFS, which is the University of the Free State. I work as an IK recorder, and right now we're here with the IK holders. They are being interviewed about them taking part in the project. This project has taught me so much about our culture as a Black nation, the use of medicine and how it keeps us together as a nation because we are united and it's all about Ubuntu. So right now at Tabanyabakan Park in Bethlehem, there's so much medicine here on the mountain, and I'm keen to learning more in this project and doing more, and also to preserve all this nature so that it cannot be destroyed and it will be used by the upcoming generation. Thank you.
Nna ke me Mariam Fukeng a dula mona Bethlehem ke tlasa mokgatlo wa T4 Traditional Faith Outreach Agency. project. Ke project agency. Ke ditumelo tse nong jwalo ka ha ditumelo e le yone ya bo profeta e ntse wela tlasa badimo. Wa ba o tsebisa ka ba ka o tsebisa ba o bontsha fela ba o tsebisa ka ditoro kapa ka dipono ebe ene ya bongaka jwalo ka ha re rutwa ka tsona dipono le ditoro yona ya meriana jwalo ka one ko o tshwereng re hotse ntse re reke watch.
Siyanibingelela siyanamukela esifundazweni saKwaZulu-Natal. Igama lami nguNompilo wakamyende ucoordinator weproject ozinze eUniversity yaKwaZulu-Natal eWestville campus. Namhlanje sivakashele le ndawo yaseNanda la kuyikhona khona la esithole khona ulwazi kule minyaka esesiqhubekile nayo iproject. Abantu bale ndawo basize kakhulu ngokusinikeza ulwazi lamakhambi endabuko nokudla abakudlayo okuyikona okusizayo ukuthi abantu baqine.
Igama lami nguNonjabulo Dlamini ngiqhamuka eNanda. eNanda-ke la basivakashele khona namhlanje okuyindawo eyaziwa njengendawo la bazalelwa khona osopolitiki bethu ababili, ubaba uMahatma Gandhi nobaba uDube uLanga Libalele. Ngaphandle kwalokho le ndawo yaziwa njengendawo enedamu elikhulu iNanda Dam. Njengoba limona nje emva kwami kunedamu elikhulu iNanda Dam elavela ngonyaka ka-1987 mhla kuney'khukhula ezakhukhula izindlu lana, kodwa kwase kuvela into enhle ngoba kusukela ngaleso sikhathi asibange sisawaswela amanzi. Sesiyakwazi ukuthi sithole amanzi eduzane, siyawaphuza wona lamanzi aqoqeke ngokwanele ukuthi ayaphuzwa, siyawasha ngawo, kanjalo futhi nezilwane zethu ziyakwazi ukuthi ziphuze kuwona, imfuyo-ke. Ngalamanzi futhi omama laba abane-close cooperation la emakhaya, ngisho group mhlawumbe kuba i-group of 10 esuke ihlangene yenze isivande, aphinde asebenzise wona lamanzi lawa ukuthi bachelele iy'vande zabo ukuze thina njengomphakathi sizokwazi sithole ukudla eduze singaze siye emaThekwini ukuyothenga ukudla, kanjalo nabo bathole i-income from thina abantu bangaze bayosebenza. Indawo-ke yangakithi iyindawo enezinto ey'ningi njengezikole. Sinezikole, ama-primary school, ama-secondary, ama-high school, kanjalo njalo. Uyayikhethela njengomzali ukuthi ufisa ingane yakho ukuthi ingene kuphi. Sinamaklinikhi-ke amaningi, ikhona nekhona nje uthola iklinikhi. Kanjalo sinanezihlahla njengoba nibona nje emva kwami kugcwele iy'hlahla. Lezi iy'hlahla ey'ningi zingamakhambi emvelo asisize ukuthi silapheke ungaze uye eklinikhi uma ngabe ugula. Indawo yethu-ke indawo enokuthula kakhulu, abukho buxhwanguxhwangu khona, ingakho ngithanda indawo yethu yaseNanda. Welcome to iNanda.
Thank you. I think we would have loved to play more community videos. Otherwise, we're going to sit here until 10 o'clock tonight. But the videos will be made available on the Nixo portal. There are videos that we still need to look and edit on and to edit out, because you know when you engage with communities and they want to kuluma, they talk, and they don't want to stop. You know, and I guess that's the excitement of what this initiative is. So we're going to go over now to a video presentation of Professor Luke Chimuka. He is from the University of the Witwatersrand, and he will just show us like the value added of products and services that have stemmed from indigenous food and medicinal plants. Sit back and enjoy.
I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk at this event. I'm part of the IKS-based technology transfer group or consortium. We are also have been funded by the Department of Science and Innovation, and we are a big group as seen by the various logos. It includes communities and research institutions, all protocols observed. The title of my talk is The Promotion and Benefits of Indigenous Food. South Africa as a country is very rich in biodiversity, and within this biodiversity we have a lot of indigenous food crops and plants. In the slide, a few examples are given. Crops like amaranthus, Bidens pilosa, these are common indigenous food crops which some of us when we are young, who grew up in rural areas, we used to eat them, and they are very tasty and very nutritious. So far, South Africa as a country has tried to do its part to promote indigenous food crops or plants. And this is seen from various activities, like the development of IKS policy, the bioeconomy strategy. Because within the bioeconomy, you are trying to drive industries out of indigenous crops, and then indigenous food crops play a key role there. And there is also Intergovernmental Committee on IKS. Government departments like DSI have done their part to try to fund basic research and applied research that can enhance the growth of these indigenous food crops, and even to do research that can facilitate value additions. And now, with the launch of Indigenous Knowledge Recording System, this is also adding another leg to the promotion of indigenous food crop or plants as well. With so many exotic crops being promoted and being grown in large amounts, one can ask, why try to promote indigenous food crops? Some of the answers are summarized in this slide. These plants and crops are a source of nutrients. They contain high amounts of especially major nutrients like magnesium and calcium that are needed by the body. Additionally, they are a source of health benefiting components which you will not find in these exotic crops. Now, because of that, most of them, they are also called nutraceuticals. Now, there is a saying that says, let your food be your medicine, and your medicine be your food. This saying is true when it comes to eating indigenous food crops, because they contain health benefiting components or chemicals in them. It's essentially some of the lifestyle diseases, the prevention of lifestyle diseases, some of the lifestyle diseases. Some studies show that they can be minimized if one eats a lot of these indigenous food crops. There is also a change now in consumer lifestyle. Consumers now, they are not concerned about eating only functional foods. because everyone now is concerned about their health. And therefore, the type of food they eat matters to them. And that is true because there is also a saying that says, you are what you eat. And because of that, these indigenous food crops offer as a solution to anyone who is health conscious on what they want to eat. Also, they are a source of food security. They are very resilient to drought and pests because some of them, like amaranthus, it just grows in the wild. It's able to survive among other weeds, among various pests that are in there, the same like beet and pirosa, unlike these exotic crops where to grow them you have to apply several pesticides, which often they are not healthy to the consumer. And also when you grow these indigenous crops, they are a source of job creation, especially when you add agro-processing. And these jobs are created in rural areas where there is high unemployment. This is a study that was done at CSIR Biosciences by Dr. Dramini, which was presented in 2010 at some conference. Now you can see that here the health benefits of amaranthus are clearly shown with a lot of phenolic compounds. And what is interesting is that these compounds are very high in the leaves and the seeds, which is a good thing because the leaves are actually what we eat and use them. This is one of the studies which we did where we compared common vegetables to moringa, which is also seen as a nutraceutical crop or plant. And you can see that when it comes to trace nutrients like total phenolics and the total flavonoids, moringa has got exceptionally high concentrations, and these are key to the well-being of the human body.
Can I just get the technical team to check what is happening? Excuse me. Okay, there's just a technical issue in terms of the sound has been lost. But as we go on and while we're waiting for it to come back, I think you would all agree with me when the DG gave us the challenge. This exactly leads or links to the challenge. So I'll keep quiet now and let Professor Chimuka continue. Thanks.
I thank the organizers for giving me this day of code only and lightly. Now we are in what we call the fourth industrial revolution, the 4IR. The question is, what next? There are some talk of the fifth industrial revolution, which is going to be a merger between digitization and bioeconomy, and it will be called biologization. It means plant biomass, including indigenous food crops, are going to play a key role in the fifth industrial revolution, if the prediction is correct. And the promotion of these food crops, therefore, is a good thing because it positions the country towards the coming industrial revolution. Finally, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk on behalf of my colleagues. And thank you very much.
Can we give a round of applause? I think, delegates, audience, that this presentation really makes us think, you know, going into the future, but it also comes back to the work that the IKS documentation centers are doing, because they are documenting the indigenous foods that their communities are eating, and they say that we cannot get to that if we don't have a compendium or an archive that we register this information in, and hence the IKS registration system. So I think we are going to go to another presentation from Dr. Mapula Razwinani from the Global Health Biotech. I think she's going to do a virtual presentation. So we will link up. That will be the last presentation of today. That marks the celebrations of our IK registration system launch. And the beginning of the hard work starts now. Over to you, technical team.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity to Are we good to go? I want to know if I'm good to go.
Giving the context. So I'll stop there and give Dr. Maputla the opportunity to provide her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the host to give me this opportunity to talk about products from medicinal plants. Before I start, I would like to share my slide, but I'm disabled to share. Can the host allow me to share the slide, please?
Dr. Maputla, just a few seconds. They're trying to set you up.
Okay, thank you.
Are you able to share from your side, Doc?
Let me try. Yeah, I am able to share. screen and I cannot access my file.
All right, Doctor, is it possible that you speak to your presentation? We will then listen to your audio.
It is possible. It is possible to speak my presentation since I'm unable to share it.
Thank you, Doctor.
So what I will do is I will just speak my presentation through, and then and if anybody wants the presentation, then I can give to you guys, and then we can circulate. I'm Dr. Mapula Rosinani, and Managing Director of Global Health Biotech Company. So most of my introduction, previous speaker has talked more about the original of IKS, and I'm not going to bore you with more information about that. What I will say is I will just only talk much about how did I become part of Global Health Biotech, and how did we transfer, or how did I become part of Global Health Biotech, and how was commercialization. So what happened was like when I was doing my PhD, I can hear a sound at the back, so it's like irritating. Okay, what happened was during the time when I was doing my PhD, myself and my supervisor, we are on a research area of tissue engineering and regenerative medicine, and we wanted to know medicinal plants that are being used by traditional healers for treatment of arthritis or joint disease. So what I did was I come from I went to my mother and asked information on the name of plants that are being used for treatment of so she gave me the plant name, and after that I went to the lab and do a formulation of the plant. Pick a combination that will give me the best or better concentration and weight best and development, which during that time we managed to patent the work using Ghana University of Technology, and the work was patented in 2017. The patent was under the title called a plant-derived which was patented in 2017, and this plant-derived medicinal composition was patented believing that the plant has anti-inflammatory properties as well as the ability to promote collagen type 2. So after we had the patent, then we decided that we need to take those anti-inflammatory medicinal plants into the market, and we came up with a solution. And our solution called the product La Africa Suda. So La Africa Suda is the first product that we did in global health that has the ability to is the first product that we developed at global health that's made from medicinal plants. And this product not only has an anti-inflammatory activity, also help to relieve muscles and joint pain for post-exercise. It restores muscles and targeted joint area. It also is one of its kind. The main reason why we say it's one of its kind is because the product has what we call preventive ability, meaning that you apply both before and after physical activity for anticipated muscles and joint pain. So if you are a person who loves to exercise and you know where your muscles undergo frustration during exercising and it's become too much so what it does is you apply before you become physically active, and then you apply before you become physically active, and it helps you to continue
with your activity. It helps you to continue with your exercise, and you apply also after. Then you won't be able to say tomorrow I won't be going to the gym because I'm having a sore muscles, I can't lift the weight, I can't run, I can't use cardio. When you use La Africa soda, it prevents the muscles to undergo a lot of frustration and a lot of pain. And another thing unique that it has what we call a restorative ability. It promotes collagen type 2, which is the work that we have done in the lab, and we have seen it also. We had seen it showing high expression of collagen type 2, which is one of the protein that you find in the joint. So if you go to our company website, which is www.globalhealthbiotech.co.za, you will see a lot of reviews from our customer who has been using La Africa Soother and who has given us a very good feedback after they used the product, that it really helped them. And we have a high amount of people purchasing the product, people who are at the gym purchasing the product. And the main reason to make our product also good is that this product is not a product made from medicinal plants. It's not found like the recommended and synthetic stimulant that we have at the pharmacy, and it's got high shelf life. So its shelf life is longer, and you can store it at room temperature. It doesn't necessarily need a particular temperature to store it. Just store it at room temperature, then you will have it for a long period of time. You have it for a long period of time. So another thing that I want to share was that the challenges that you find most researchers are unable maybe to their research to scientific into commercialization is the fact that you will find that the idea that they have as researchers cannot be commercialized, because most researchers are only working towards the issue of they don't care about commercialization. And another thing is we don't have available funds, even though we can bridge the gap between IKS and the researchers together. There is no fund to be able to run the thing, to run the research and commercialize it. If South Africa can be able to have funds to do that, then it will be better for researchers to be able to work with IKS holder. And there are obstacles for implementation of entrepreneurship and commercialization at the university level, because university you get rated based on the number of articles you publish, not based on the number, based on issue of whether your research that you can be commercialized, and that can increase also socio-economic South Africa. In conclusion, is that the knowledge that we get from IKS as Global Health Biotech, it doesn't only stay with us. We do what we call knowledge transfer between us and a traditional healer who has given us the knowledge about the plants that are being used if you have osteoarthritis. So we do transfer knowledge. As I have read a lot of articles about it, I train them for technical. I train them for technical in issue of measuring their medicinal plants, and also on issue of how do you package them for a longer shelf life, and also on the process that to what the plant to remove excess, and if this plant has mold, you don't need to use it because it can cause higher effect. And our IKS holder holds a specific percentage in our company, so she has a share in our company. And fortunately, the IKS holder is my mother. And with that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry I'm unable to share my slides, but thank you very much for your time and for giving me the opportunity and for listening to me. If there is any question, you can ask, but all I can say is in the
Good round of applause for Dr. Maputla. Thank you, Dr. Maputla. If there are any questions for Dr. Maputla, you can put it on the chat. She won't respond to it now. We would request that the department send it to her, and then we can transfer that, her response to all of you. But thank you very much, Dr. Maputla, for providing your time. We apologize also for the presentation not being aired, as well as I think the bandwidth was a bit of a problem. There has been members that have not, that's online, that couldn't hear you. But we are recording this, and we'll make the recording, your presentation, available through the portal. Cesar, next week? Yeah? Thank you so much, Dr. Maputla. And I think with that said, colleagues, on this side of the internet, and those on the internet that are with us virtually, we've come to the end of the program. I'd like to thank you, and Dr. Slater already gave the vote of thanks, but I'd like us to just clap for ourselves, everyone here in the room, and congratulate yourselves for pulling this together. And those that are traveling from far, please travel safe, keep safe, keep the distance, don't drive on the new road, drive on the old road, because then you can drive slower, but you will get to your destination. So with that said, I thank you very much for all of your effort, for you coming here. Those online that have joined us, thank you so much. I thank you.
I think that Motel and Carol deserve another round of applause for the program management, and travel well. Thank you very much.